Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
The 76ers roll on, quote-unquote, the process, or as I'm calling them now, the progress, rolls on in the NBA playoffs. 4-1 victory over the Heat in the midst of the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs and the Philadelphia Flyers season coming to a halt against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But overall, I'm in a blissful state right now. Phillies, for the most part, on a roll lately. The Philadelphia Eagles schedule came out within the week, which we will go over, at least in preliminary fashion, as there's still ways to go until the regular season. Oh, and did I mention the NFL draft is this week? But right now, the Philadelphia 76ers really are the talk of the town. And I know last time on the Tyler Werner Show, I was thinking, you're good enough to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. The question now is, with kind of the wide-open nature of the Eastern Conference, are the Philadelphia 76ers bound to get to the NBA Finals? We'll discuss.
And now, here's Tyler Werner.
That's right. Stomp your feet, everybody, for your Philadelphia 76ers. I'll tell you what, man. This is going to be a jam-packed show today on the Tyler Werner Show. This week, this is different. This is unlike anything I'm used to and probably any other Philadelphia sports fan in recent years is used to. It's just amazing how things have turned. Like, the NFL draft, part of it's due to the Philadelphia Eagles not having a high first-round pick, being the Super Bowl champions, and not having much of an early draft in general with, second and third-round picks dealt away, unless Howie makes some kind of deal or something. But so it's like the draft. The NFL draft this year, totally takes a back seat to Philadelphia 76ers playoff basketball. However, the Sixers aren't really playing until later next week because they've wrapped up the series against the Miami Heat 4-1. It's just that's about what I thought. It all played out just about how I thought it would have. Now, the Heat, they tied up the series 1-1 early on before Joel Embiid made his return. At that point, I'm thinking, Game 3, and Joel Embiid was he took to social media to voice his frustrations and was a little profane about it, shall we say, and maybe stepped over his boundaries just a little bit, but you get the point. He wanted.
Man, I love y'all. I hope y'all keep trusting the process.
He wanted to get out there. He was itching to get out there and sporting that mask. And I'll tell you what, Sixers wrapped this one up in 5 games. And now, you look around the rest of the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, it's wide open. It's wide open for the Sixers taking. Heading into the playoffs, Toronto was kind of the cream of the crop. We knew Boston, missing a key player for the rest of the season, didn't have as good of odds. And that's sort of showing where now they're leading the Bucks 3-2. They're getting by. But clearly, we know who they're missing. Whether it's karma for demanding your way out of the Cleveland Cavaliers, not playing with the greatest, not wanting to play, I guess, with the greatest player in the game, and going to the Boston Celtics. I don't know, but you got that. The Toronto Raptors, the 1 seed, they're having their struggles. They're starting to sputter at the worst time. As I speak, they're okay. Well, no, they did beat the Wizards today, 108-98. So they have a chance to wrap that series up shortly, but and the Cavaliers, they're kind of having their struggles against the Pacers. Actually, right now, as of this podcasting, this recording of the Tyler Werner Show, Wednesday night, the Cleveland Cavaliers, late in the fourth quarter, up 95-89. That series is tied 2-2, though. It's no walk in the park for them. So you look around the rest of the Eastern Conference, and the Sixers right now, I mean, that Miami Heat team, they're a physical team, but they're not able to score enough to keep up with the Sixers. That's the bottom line. They got the one game, game 2, and that was about it, where they were a little bit out-coached in a way, but the Sixers bounced back and they closed out the series rather well, just like expected out of me. Now you go over to the Western Conference, it's kind of a different story. Whether it's going to be the Houston Rockets or the Golden State Warriors, those teams are unlike anything in the Eastern Conference, including the 76ers. So I'm not ready to say, I'm not going that far to say Sixers NBA champions, but the way they're playing, I mean, we're gonna get into this Stephen A. Smith audio. I'm just sick of hearing the guy open his mouth when it comes to this whole process thing, and it just doesn't. How can you praise this Sixers team on one hand, but the other hand, you totally bash the whole process thing? Like I said, the last few years, it was about trusting the process, and now we are witnessing the progress. We're witnessing, however, progress to a greater extent than what I expected we were going to witness, what many of us expected we're going to witness. And the trajectory of the Sixers in the playoffs now has changed. Ever since they got in as a 3 seed, rather than, a 6-7 seed like many of us were speculating. Once they got in, the way they did, riding a 16-game win streak, with some of those games, mind you, without Joel Embiid, it just went to show you that this Sixers team, they may have a deep run in them in the playoffs. Especially given Kyrie Irving goes down with the Boston Celtics. And now, the Toronto Raptors, struggling with the 8 seed Washington Wizards. I mean, they're leading the series 3-2, but it's no walk in the park for them, certainly. So you gotta love what you're seeing with the Sixers. Now, and the good thing is Joel Embiid, he got a few games under his belt in this series against the Miami Heat, a chance to kind of get his legs back. Now they're going to get, a decent amount of rest. While whoever they face next will have played at minimum, I guess, a 6-game series. Boston has a chance to wrap up the series against the Bucks tomorrow. So as long as they take care of business, then most likely that's who the Sixers are going to be playing, unless the Wizards just totally fritter away. Or I'm sorry, if the Raptors totally fritter away their series against the Wizards. That's what we're looking at. Well, I'm not expecting that to happen. But if it all plays out kind of as expected with the Celtics and the Raptors, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to take on the Celtics, and gotta like the Sixers' chances again against an Irvingless Celtics team that isn't having the easiest of times against the Milwaukee Bucks. And that will lead to the Raptors and the winner of the Cavaliers-Pacers series. That series is tied. I'm sorry. Well, it's tied as I speak, but again, it's late in the fourth quarter. Cavaliers up 95-89. So the Cavaliers-Raptors series, maybe the Cavs do win that series, and then that sets up. That could very well set up for a Cleveland Cavaliers-Sixers series. But again, this is not the same Cavaliers team where LeBron James, how many times in a row in the first round has he, with the Cavaliers or whoever, swept the first round series of their playoffs? This isn't the same Cavs team. And I think the Sixers kind of proved that as well without Joel Embiid when they beat him a couple weeks ago. In what was a huge game in determining where the Cavaliers and the Sixers would end up in the playoffs. Huge game. So we'll talk, obviously, about that. And we're going to get in, again, Stephen A. Smith, who I don't know who out there is a big fan of First Take and these national shows, these national guys who, it's like they say things to get a reaction. They overreact to get a reaction. And coming up a little bit later in the program, I'm going to save it a little bit. A little few-minute montage of audio cuts from within the last week, where while Stephen A. Smith is so excited about what the Sixers are doing and how Stephen A. Smith is liking his chances, loving the Sixers' chances of reaching the NBA Finals, he still goes on to bash the process, the whole process thing, even though the way the NBA is set up, it's like, how else do you get championship level good? Like what's the best way to do that? What's the most logical way to do that? Well, it's kind of to do what the Sixers did. And the Sixers were willing to take the hit for a few years, to take the revenue hit, have the Wells Fargo Center be less than half full for many games, sell tickets for dirt cheap, and really not make much of any money on it. They were willing to do that for a few years, knowing that in the long run, with their evaluations, they were going to bring a couple superstar level, future superstar players here in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And while Markelle Fultz maybe has a year or two to maybe get up to speed a little bit with the NBA, find his place. You got him. And then again, if they bring LeBron here in the offseason, you're talking automatic NBA final favorite with the level that LeBron James is still playing at. So, again, trust the process, and now we're witnessing the progress. And boy, for a team that won less than 30 games last year, look at the turnaround they're making. So we'll listen to that then. Stephen A. Smith, I mean, again, just eat it. Seriously. We'll get into it. Flyer fans, and see, this is what irks me. Look, I've been a Flyer fan for years. I mean, I'm a young guy, so I say that, you know. but in the retrospect of my life, in terms of my existence here on Earth, in my lifespan, I've been, you know, I have a lot of memories with hockey growing up, and really getting into the Flyers. But I looked at this series heading into it, and I thought, even if this isn't the best Pittsburgh Penguins team that we're used to seeing, even if they're only just a couple points better than the Flyers, they're still seasoned. They're still defending Stanley Cup champions back to back. Am I right? They still got the best player in the game and a few other great difference-making players. So, while it was nice to see them last Friday night pull out a big game when they were down 3-1, Sunday it just all came crashing down in that third period, where they ended up getting outplayed. Their goaltending just continues to be an issue that needs to be solved if they want to really have a significant chance of finally hoisting a Stanley Cup after over 40 frickin' years. I mean, look, the writing was on the wall. And it's not the end of the world to me that this Flyers team lost in the first round to a better Pittsburgh Penguins team, to a more playoff experienced, playoff seasoned hockey team. So while I'm sure being at the Wells Fargo Center and watching the Flyers season come crashing down at the end there in that 8-5 loss on Sunday, while I'm sure that was devastating, I was really disappointed watching it myself. Just the way it looked like they were gonna take that game and take this series to a Game 7. It's still no reason for fans in the audience to be throwing frickin' beer cans onto the ice or possibly on people's heads. You know, there might be kids there at the game. Did you think of that? And reportedly, like, not empty beer cans, like some fool. Are you kidding me? Flyer fans, like, come on. You know, it kind of goes back to a couple years ago when Ed Snyder passed away and they had the wristbands that one. And I think the Flyers got their rear ends handed to them in a 5-0 shutout or something. And so they throw the wristbands on the ice. And it's like, come on. I know the whole Pittsburgh Penguin rivalry thing. I know, I get it. But at the same time, I have enough analyst in me, I guess. I'm enough of a fanalist to know that, well, you know what? This Pittsburgh Penguins team is just better than the Flyers team. They're a seasoned playoff team with the best player in the game year in, year out. And the Flyers, they got to figure out the goaltending situation for one thing. They're a bit of a young and up-and-coming team with some of their young core guys. I mean, what else do you want? I know it's disappointing to see your team go out in the first round of the playoffs to the Pittsburgh Penguins of all teams. I know it's semi-embarrassing. But you can't be throwing beer cans. Well, you can't be doing that. That's the bottom line. That's out of line. And I know there's like a Flyers cult in this city. And I'm not saying every Philadelphia Flyers fan, but a lot of Flyer fans where the Flyers are the only team. They're not 4 for 4 Philadelphia sports teams. Or they'll be Flyers fans, but then they'll root for some other NFL team instead of the Philadelphia Eagles that are representing this region very well with that Super Bowl victory. While the Philadelphia Flyers fan base throws beer cans out on the ice after that loss. Come on. Little frustrated about that, but at the end of the day, the Philadelphia Phillies, for now, I'm not saying, I mean, they're 14-8. Of course, they are taking on the Arizona. They're in the midst of a series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Lost yesterday. But before that, playing rather well. They swept the series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. 6-game win streak. So, it's nice to see that. Along with the 76ers and what they're doing. Joel Embiid back on the floor. And an NFL draft where for once, I mean, the Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions. They got Carson Wentz, who, by the way, I've an interesting little, I guess, tidbit. Carson Wentz, I'll get to. And yeah, like I said, the Eagles, they look like they're set up pretty well to win the division again this year. And we'll go through the schedule. Because it was released, before I forget to mention that again, before we hit the first break, we will go through, I guess, preliminary prediction rundown 1 of the Philadelphia Eagles 2018 schedule.
Oh, man.
That's right. And, of course, we're going to get into this Stephen A. Smith audio. And Southwest Flight 1380. Last week that was set to go to Dallas, but ended up making an emergency landing in Philadelphia. I have a way to kind of tie that in to this whole sports thing. We'll get into it. It's the Tyler Werner Show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you on the other side. Stay tuned for more right after this.
Investigators are calling it the heist of the century. The grand robbery of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, committed by some apparently hungry NFL officials who love their balls.
When I came in Monday morning, I was shocked to learn of the news reports about the balls and the process that happened between when they were prepared and went to the officials and went to the game.
As shocked as Belichick was of the news, perhaps Brady, the last man out of the kitchen on that Sunday night, was even more shocked to hear of the news of the theft.
I have a process that I go through. It's the same process that I always go through. When I felt them, they were perfect. I mean, I wouldn't want anyone touching those. I would zip those things up and lock them away, and that's what I thought I was doing.
As Brady and Belichick upped the ante on their ball security, you'll just have to pick up a pack of their meatballs the next time you hit the grocery store and enjoy just how perfect these balls really are.
Tom's personal preferences on his ball security are something that he can talk about in much better detail than I could possibly provide.
Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting. The word customer begins with CU. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.
It's the Tyler Werner Show, and we're back. Last edition of April. My God, where did the months go? We're on our way to the month of May. It's gonna be May. No, seriously though, I mean, it seems like there wasn't much of spring. Like, before you know it, we're gonna have summer weather. I know. In fact, let me check here. Because if I'm not mistaken, here in the southeastern Pennsylvania region, or whatever, just in general, for me specifically, about the borderline of Lancaster County and Berks County. Let's see. Like, I'm looking ahead here. About next week this time, Wednesday 81, Thursday 81. So we got some warmer weather for sure coming. By that point it'll be May, and it is. Before you know, we're gonna have this regular summer weather, and it seemed like we just kind of got out of the wintry weather. This week has been it's been kind of nice. It's been in the 60s. It's been a little more spring-like, and we're well on our way to the month of May, as I just said. And the Sixers are well on their way in the NBA playoffs. They await their next opponent, which, like I said, it's likely to be the Boston Celtics, unless the Celtics fritter away their series. If that happens, or if the Toronto Raptors fritter their series away somehow against the Wizards, that would put the Celtics at the next remaining high seed, as long as the Celtics take care of business. Or I don't know, maybe just both of those teams just screw it up. And the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference remain as the highest seed in the Eastern Conference, that is. That I can't see that happening, but I guess stranger things have happened, huh? That'd be something else. But no, in all seriousness, the Sixers, first team to wrap their series up in the East, they await their opponent. Over in the West, I mean, how about what happened to the Trailblazers? New Orleans Pelicans shutting them out 4-0. The only shutout in round one of the NBA playoffs. Usually used to seeing maybe a few more than that in the first round, but not so much this year. Little unusual to see, I guess, but that was a bit of an upset. Meanwhile, the Golden State Warriors wrapped their series up 4-1. You have the Houston Rockets lead their series 3-1 over the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you would think that they'll take care of business against them tonight. So those two teams are in action. The Utah Jazz are in action against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Utah's leading that series 3-1. Cleveland, lock it down. They win 98-95. They lead that series 3-2. And Raptors win their game 108-98, and chance to win that series coming up on Friday. All right, so let's, without further ado, we'll go in the Eagles' schedule a little later. We'll run down that a little later. Talk about that then. But I wanted to get into this Stephen A. Smith. He's so, I don't understand. Seriously, you'll hear in this montage. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but you'll hear it. if you haven't heard it already, Stephen A. Smith, well-known host of, well-known national sports guy, host of First Take for however many years he's been doing it. Even says he has a lot of friends in the Philadelphia area. But then, by the same token, he thinks we should all be ashamed of ourselves for lauding this process. When by the same token, look at the progress they're making. Look at how they may very well be in the NBA Finals, and Stephen A. Smith believes now that they will be. But we shouldn't laud the process. It's a disgrace. It's just... Before I get too much into it, let's play that. Let's play the audio. Stephen A. Smith. It's a few cuts from within the last week. And how he kind of... The Sixers have won him over. In the sense that the way they're playing, they're NBA Finals bound. But he still has this radical anti-process stance. Here's Stephen A. Smith from within the last week.
I must confess to you, Max Kellerman, I'm not there yet, but I'm almost to the point where I got to pick up the phone and call my boy AI, who I spoke to just a few days ago, and I might have to concede he was right because he was telling me.
I hear you.
Oh, wait, we had it cut out. Let's start it over.
I must confess to you, Max Kellerman, I'm not there yet, but I'm almost to the point where I got to pick up the phone and call my boy AI, who I spoke to just a few days ago, and I might have to concede he was right because he was telling me, yo, the 76ers could go to the finals. And you know something? I'm starting to feel that right now. I'm starting to feel that right now.
They're teasing watching the game, but like smile on your face, you're eating your popcorn.
I'm a rare New Yorker because usually New Yorkers can't stand Boston. They can't stand Philly. I worked in Philadelphia for 17 years. It's a second home to me. A lot of guys that were in the organization when I was there covering the team is still there. You understand? And I got a lot of friends in the Philadelphia area. My boy Chris Brock and Steve White and the crew. You understand? And everybody else in between. I got a lot of fellas in the city of brotherly love. And I have to confess to you right now, as I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm getting incredibly excited. I'm trying to pump the brakes, but I'm getting excited, Max. I'm getting excited.
Because now you see the process, the results.
No, it ain't got nothing to do with that damn process.
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does.
I have an announcement to make. I am no longer on this bandwagon that the Cleveland Cavaliers, meaning LeBron James, will get to the NBA Finals.
What? Why?
Ladies and gentlemen, I made a mistake last week when I said that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to the conference finals. I was wrong. I'm picking the Philadelphia 76ers to go all the way to the finals. I am of the belief that the Philadelphia 76ers are the team to beat, and they are going to the finals. Let me tell you something right now, and I'm going to tell you why, okay? First of all, Rich Paul, I know he's out there watching and listening. He's Ben Simmons' agent, too. Ben Simmons is not the rookie of the year. I still say that. It is still Donovan Mitchell to me. This is the postseason, though. Let me say this. Ben Simmons is a superstar in the making. This brother is the truth and a half. We call Paul Pierce the truth. He's a truth and a half. And oh, by the way, when he gets a jump shot, he will be LeBron James part deux. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Joel Embiid, awful 2-for-11 performance, turning the ball over, all of this other stuff. Don't mean a damn thing to me. Both of them are playing above their age, above their pay grade.
But I still don't applaud this. And I think it's a damn shame that y'all applaud it. This is embarrassing. You can sit up there and talk about trust the process all you want to. It's a national disgrace. It's anti-American. It's counterproductive and counterintuitive to everything that this great nation prides itself on when it comes to the world of sport. You all who love and trust the process should be ashamed of your damn selves. Y'all make me sick. Every one of yous. Every one of yous.
Yep. Every one of us, ladies and gentlemen. We make Stephen A. Smith sick. Yeah, well, he's probably out laughing his way to the bank. But that's not the point. Are you kidding me? Like, he's so hell-bent over this whole process, like how the Sixers did it. Like, you know what? I know the NFL's different in how it's set up with it, but you could easily make the case, well, the Cleveland Browns, how many years have they stunk? Maybe not as much on purpose, but it's like in a situation, like in some cases, it's like it's worse. Like the Cleveland Browns, year after year, without stinking on purpose, and getting either number 1 draft pick or a top 5 draft pick, how many years in a row, and they just still can't get it together. With the Sixers, yeah, it's a little. I mean, you got the whole draft lottery thing, but it was totally logical. What was done, what was presented to the Sixers owners brass, the plan, quote unquote, the process, the Sam Hinkie process. And Stephen A. Smith, he brings up on the side, like, you know, the racial side of it, which I don't need to get into or anything, but just look at the common sense here of the way the NBA is set up. And now what the Sixers are doing, now that we're witnessing the progress and how it paid off. I mean, I don't understand, like, what you want. So what I meant to do here was tie in this whole Southwest Flight 13A, because Stephen A. Smith, ladies and gentlemen, he is so, like, it angers him, the whole process thing. I mean, you heard in that montage, he doesn't even want to hear the word process. Like, the second somebody says, so you're trusting the process. It's like, oh, no, I don't want to hear about the damn process. Like, just because Stephen A. Smith doesn't want to admit that he was wrong about the process. He was wrong about his views on what the Sixers were doing. Now he wants to, that it wasn't going to work or whatever. That was wrong what they were doing. He's hell-bent over that. Whereas I gotta totally applaud the pilot of Southwest Flight 1380. For those who don't know, I don't know, living under a rock, maybe didn't hear about it. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes these are the kinds of heroes you don't hear about. Maybe you should, but Southwest Flight 1380 was heading out from New York last Tuesday en route to Dallas. However, over Berks County, here in the southeastern Pennsylvania region, what happened to the plane was one of the engines basically exploded, metal fatigue being the main issue. And the engine basically exploded and kind of crashed through one of the passenger windows, unfortunately killing one of the passengers on the plane. There was fire then coming out of the engine. So, I don't know. I've actually never been on a plane. But, and I don't know a whole lot about planes for, I guess, or flying on one for that reason. But I gotta imagine that as a pilot flying a plane, and you got about 150 people on board, as well as yourself flying the plane, and you just had an engine explode on fire that crashed through the window, depressurized the plane, killed a passenger. You're flying with one engine. You got to make an emergency. You got to scramble to find emergency landing. I got to imagine, like, that is got to be insanely, I don't know, appalling when you're how many thousand feet in the air? This pilot, female pilot, the name slipped me. It was more in my head last week, but the name slipped me. I'll play the audio. The female, and she just remains basically as cool as a cucumber, trying to, I guess, figure out, okay, we got to make an emergency landing. Where can I do it? So, Stephen A. Smith, who is so hell bent over this process, which I don't understand why. He is so determined to make villains out of us, the Philadelphia sports fan base, over this whole for lauding the process. Now that we see what it's leading to, where there are people out there that fly planes with these very complicated, life-threatening circumstances, where you got 150 people in a plane that's running on one engine while the other engine just crashed through the window, depressurized the plane, and there's flames coming out of it. And instead of flying to Dallas, you got to scramble and find emergency landing. Here's some of the audio transmission exchange of that very flight. And listen to, with all what I just mentioned with the situation, how competently, with so much at stake, lives at stake, including your own, flying the plane, with so much at stake, how impressively well the pilot handled the situation.
Southwest 1380 has an engine fire descending.
Southwest 1380, you're descending right now?
Yes, sir. We're single engine descending, have a fire number 1.
All right, Southwest 1380. Okay, where would you like to go to? Which airport?
Give us a vector for your closest.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
We're just flying 250.
Okay, heading 250. We're looking at Philly.
Southwest 1380, Roger. And stand by. Southwest 1380 to the Philadelphia airport. Direct.
Direct Philadelphia, direct. Southwest 1480.
Southwest 1380, do you have traffic just below you?
Say again for Southwest 1380.
Southwest 1380, New York.
Southwest 1380, go ahead.
Southwest 1380, understand, so there's a fire, you're a single engine for the fire?
Actually, we're no fire now, but we are single engine.
Okay, you are single engine now. Okay, so direct facility, I guess it's, can you maintain 11,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 1380 is going to maintain 11,000.
Okay, down to 11,000.
Southwest 1380, just so I can understand, you said that you're still single engine, and what else?
Okay, Southwest 1380, we're single engine. That's it.
Okay, single engine. Maintain 11,000, you need anything standing by on the truck?
Yes, if you would, have them roll the trucks. It's on the engine number 1, captain's side.
Okay, thank you. Southwest 1380, contact New York Center 135-145.
3545. Good day.
Okay, so that was Tammy Jo Schultz piloting that plane in that situation. And I guess the engine, I guess the flames did go out then. But, like, faced with a situation like that, And it's kind of it was a national story, but it's relevant, especially in this area. She flew over Berks County. They're flying over Berks County, and over Berks County, that's where there was like in different areas of the county, pieces of the plane engine were found, and it had to kind of right after that, where the engine like that, it had to make that emergency landing over in Philadelphia in the single engine state that it was in, instead of flying out to Dallas. And I know these pilots, they're prepared for situations like these, but just to be able to remain that calm in that kind of situation, it just it boggles my mind in a great way. I mean, I listen to that. I get chills over that. You know, just picturing them up in the air and this pilot remaining that cool in those kind of circumstances. Just picturing the engine of a plane barreled into that plane, depressurized the carriage of the plane or whatever, and killed somebody. Meanwhile, it boggles my mind. It amazes me. And on the other hand, I listen to Stephen A. Smith being a blowhard about the whole process thing, saying how he has all these friends in Philadelphia and whatnot, and that's great. And how he used to work in Philadelphia in the sports scene. Yeah, that's great too. But I can't for the life of me understand this anti-process sentiment to the point where he's saying it's a disgrace to the nation and the whole thing. Like, dude, it's it's the way the NBA is set up. If you have a problem with what the Sixers did, when it's kind of just it was common sense what they did, given the way the NBA is set up, it was kind of to get great. It's the way the NBA is set up. And if you have a problem with that, then take it on the NBA and how things are set up by the NBA. Not the 76ers. Just because for some reason all these national guys like to pick on Philadelphia to hate them for some reason. I don't know. We're always the villains, aren't we? There's always something. And look, I'll call us out. I'll call those that need to be called out. Like idiots that want to throw beer cans at a Flyers game when they couldn't accept that they lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who, again, they're defending Stanley Cup champions, and they're more seasoned playoff team. And I'll call out, the idiot that punched a horse after the Vikings game or whatever in the playoffs this year, and the Eagles. I'll call the idiots that need to be called out, but we're not all villains here, people. Come on, we're not all villains. The Sixers organization, they're not villains for doing what they did, no matter how much you want to paint them as villains. The NBA is set up the way it is. The Sixers took the hit. They were willing to take the hit for a few years. It took balls to do what they did, in a sense. And I saw that. I said that a few years ago, this Sixers organization, they're telling the fan base, put it on ice for a few years, and we're going to stockpile some great young talent. In a few years' time, we're going to be good for years to come. We're going to be set up to win not just an NBA championship, multiple championships, to be a dynasty. And now I look at the Sixers team, and they're well on their way. And it didn't seem that long and painful. There was a few years of some seasons of very few wins. But I look at it now and it's like, yeah, this is great. You know, it's like when you, maybe it can sort of be comparable to this. But you go through a long time maybe of being single and just, you know, not having a great girlfriend in your life. And I don't know, maybe that's sort of, I don't know. Maybe it sort of represents me right now. No. But then you wait you wait after a while, and then along comes, you know, Miss Perfect. Well, maybe not Miss Perfect, but you get my drift. Miss Amazing. Or whatever. Miss Amazing comes along. And that's, to me, that's kind of what's taking place here now.
This feels great.
Yeah. Miss Amazing comes along. You know what's come along? What's come along is the next time for the next break here on the Tyler Werner Show. Talked enough here. I gotta take a little breather here before we go down the Philadelphia Eagles schedule. And like I said, I mean, the NFL draft, it's like it's an afterthought in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Really. We're not used to this. We're not used to winning a Super Bowl. And it's like, in like, what I guess other things that come with it. Like NFL drafts that just aren't quite as big of a deal. Especially, again, when some picks were traded away, where you don't really have much of a draft on day one and whatever. It's weird. I'm not used to this. The NFL draft starts tomorrow, and it's like, okay, it's like I've forgotten. And like nobody's talking about it. It's the Tyler Werner Show. We'll be back with more right after these messages.
Attention parents. Is your under 18-year-old daughter being cyber-stalked by a man who identifies themselves as a grown adult male?
I want to meet you and fool around. Are you up to meeting tonight, hon? I think I would like to shower with you. We can do it in the shower, too.
If so, you need to contact Chris Hansen and Company to bust these online cyber-stalkers.
How are you tonight? Why don't you have a seat there and get comfortable for that? I guess you're going to tell me next that this is the very first time you've done something like this.
Chris Hansen and the Dateline crew will take care of it. Contact us, and we will put an end to the cyber stalking that your daughter is experiencing.
Well, there's something you got to know. I am Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on computer predators.
Busted! Number one box office attraction, number one WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. I think we're done.
We return on the Tyler Werner Show. Wrap things up. Not too long from now, I suppose. This April edition, as we are moving into the month of May. Early next week. It's hard to believe. But summer is, just about here. Philadelphia Phillies bounce back, defeating the Arizona Diamondbacks 5-3 this evening. After having their winning streak snapped yesterday at the hands of the Arizona Diamondbacks, 8-4. And just at least early on in the season here, to put this in perspective, in the NL East, the Phillies just a game and a half behind the division-leading New York Mets. Phillies at 14-8 right now. That's, fairly impressive. Oh, we got the music creeping back in there. But, it's, see if the Phillies can sort of keep this going, I guess. I mean, one thing, hitting on this team has improved. And with Rhys Hoskins now, full season, only emerging until, mid last season. Here he is now, right in the beginning of the season. And so, Philadelphia Phillies, what can you say? Good stuff out of them. Let's talk a little Eagles schedule here. Preseason, not too much out of the ordinary. Regular season. Here we go. I need a... And I guess before I get into it, it's nice to see... I mean, the Eagles... I guess the... how should I say this? Well, a fun fact is that the Eagles don't have to play anybody coming off of their bye week. There's not a team that'll be coming off their bye week that suits up against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's one thing. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's no in between here. Like, some people have, like, they looked at this schedule and they think it's brutal. I don't get that impression. I mean, opponent wise, yeah, they got the first place schedule, but we knew that would happen anyways. But they have, like, for instance, they have the Falcons at home. They have the Vikings at home. The Panthers, if you want to consider them a tough team, they got them at home this year. The Jaguars, they got in England. As far as tough road opponents, they got the Saints on the road and the Rams on the road. And a game against the Cowboys on the road. So, in the Jaguars, again, that's a neutral field in England. That's, I guess, considered a Jacksonville home game. But, they're both basically on the road on a neutral field over in England. Or should I say, they're in the air. Because there's no road that really goes to England. But you get my drift. Unless they take a boat, then they're on the water.
Get some water.
All right. Let me let's see here. Let's get a little music going.
Hoo-ah!
Yeah, let's get a little, we got to get, it's weird. It's been a while since having to use this music. But let's do some NFL music here as we go down the Eagles' schedule. I guess I'm going to call this the preliminary rundown of the schedule as it, only just came out. It's only the end of April. We haven't had training camp yet, mind you, so things are bound to change as we get closer to the season. But this is what I'm feeling right now as we go down the 2018 regular season schedule, and I'm expecting Carson Wentz will most likely be suiting up for week 1. Maybe he won't be quite at 100% or quite the Carson Wentz we're used to, using his legs, but we'll see. I think he'll be fine. Week 1, September 6th, starting off with a night game. A Thursday night game, that is. The Philadelphia Eagles host the Atlanta Falcons to kick off the 2018 regular season. And I think the Eagles win here. Might be a little bit of a revenge situation, I guess, sort of in the play. But this Eagles team, this defense, they're going to come out prepared. The Falcons, I don't know. They strike me with a couple question marks. But, you know, and throughout much of last season, they struck me with some question marks. But take the Eagles. Next week, Eagles with a few extra days rest. Buccaneers on the road. Eagles should take care of business and win that game, 2-0. The following week, back at home, hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck's career, his status just continues to remain question mark. Really having an underwhelming career. Eagles win that one fairly easily, I would think. Puts the Eagles at a 3-0 start. Don't think that really should be raising too many eyebrows. The next week, on the road against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, a formidable team. And I'm taking the Eagles to lose here. It's a game that could go either way. But I think kind of their first difficult road test. In a game that maybe the Eagles overlook a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of a look-ahead factor here. Because the following week, the Eagles host the Minnesota Vikings. And this is kind of maybe becoming a bit of a new rivalry in the NFC. I mean, we kind of saw what took place in the NFC Championship, even though it was a very one-sided game. But now you got former Redskins quarterback Kirk Cousins at the Minnesota Vikings, who I don't think is a huge, significant upgrade over Case Keenum or whoever they had over at Minnesota. Unlike some people, I guess, who think this is such a great move. Who think Kirk Cousins is this great quarterback who hasn't really mounted any playoff success whatsoever yet in his career. But I digress, as the saying goes. Philadelphia Eagles bounce back after their loss to the Titans, and they take care of business against the Vikings. I'm not saying another 38-7 blowout, though. Put it to you that way. A little more competitive. Vikings are going to come to play, but the Eagles take care of business. That puts the Eagles at 4-1. Following week, Eagles on the road against the Giants. I don't know. Maybe the Giants get Saquon Barkley, but I'm not feeling the Giants this year again. Maybe they improve somewhat, but you know, I don't see much improvement. Put it that way. Eagles take this win over the Giants on the road. And this is a night game. We're gonna have a little. This is a Thursday night game, mind you. Another Thursday night Eagles game. Following that, okay, a few extra days to rest when they host the Carolina Panthers. Take the Eagles defeating the Carolina Panthers. Again, I don't think too much of the Panthers. I think the Eagles will have their number again this year, as they kind of did this past year. Even though it was a pretty good game earlier in the season. The Eagles win. I should have kept 4-1, 5-1. All right, so that's 6-1. Following week, Eagles on the road, and the Jacksonville Jaguars kind of on the road as well. Over in England, this could be this is going to be a 9:30 a.m. game. So I don't know, for those attending church, or who maybe normally would attend church, might have to forget church that morning. Eagles, big game. Over, to see them in England, playing over there for the first time. I take the Eagles, but this could be a weird, again, sloppy game. Are they going to be used to that kind of grind? I mean, I guess, I don't know. Just with the jet lag and whatever else, should be interesting for both teams. But I wouldn't expect either team to be at their best for this. All right, so that puts them at 7-1. Kind of similar to last year at that time, at that midpoint of the season. And then, I believe this is where they have their bye week. And then, they come back and host the Dallas Cowboys. Eagles well rested. Eagles get a win over the Dallas Cowboys. And that puts them at 8-1. Following week on the road against the New Orleans Saints. Eagles finally lose another game. Puts them at 8-2. Again, the Saints, probably playoff year for them again. They almost had the Vikings. And had they, who knows, again, had they defeated the Vikings and the Eagles had to play the Saints, I mean, who knows. But bottom line is the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. All right. Then the Eagles next week, they host the New York Giants, and they defeat the New York Giants. Again. That puts them at 9-2. Week after that, they host the Redskins for the first time. The Redskins, they're looking like a bit of a mess right now. Looking like probably the bottom feeders of the division. This is actually going to be a night game. Monday night game, I believe. Yeah, Monday night game. Eagles win. Following week, Eagles on the road against the Cowboys, revenge situation. Cowboys win. Third loss of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then the following week, the Eagles are on the road once again this season out in Los Angeles, east to west coast, to take on the Los Angeles Rams. Rams really, in the offseason, they're really trying to stockpile some talent. They got an interesting clan of guys in the offseason. Should make for an interesting playoff push kind of game here, and it's going to be a night game. Eagles lose, making it their fourth loss of the season. Puts the Eagles at 10-4 here. But then the following week they bounce back. They host the Houston Texans, and they defeat the Houston Texans and move to 11-4. And then to close out the regular season, on the road against the Washington Redskins, who at this point I would think would have already been out of playoff contention a few weeks prior. Maybe even by that first game in the beginning of December when the Eagles host the Redskins. Maybe by then the Redskins will kind of already be in the tank. I don't know. But December 30th, last game, Eagles win against the Washington Redskins, and I have them essentially finishing at 12-4. Oh, look at that. The NFL on Fox team kind of wraps up just in time as my predictions wind down for the Philadelphia Eagles 2018 schedule. So there you have it. 12-4 is what I have them right now. I don't. Does that shock anybody? Is that about maybe where you have them? I don't know. I don't think that's. It's weird. Again, it's weird in a sense. Saying the Eagles probably finish 12-4 here, It's weird to be saying that and not have it be like this outrageous thing. Unless maybe somebody out there disagrees and thinks the Eagles are going to win, I don't know, 6 games or even like 10 or less. I don't know. I could be wrong. But with Carson Wentz and other moves that the Eagles made in the offseason, other players that the Eagles already have, here they are, defending Super Bowl champions, look like they're primed and ready for a season where, again, they don't have to play anybody that in particular that's going to specifically be coming off of their bye week. And meanwhile, it's not too daunting. Again, they got some key games at home, and Philadelphia has become a tough place to play, ladies and gentlemen. And that is good to say. Good home field advantage the Eagles have going, that they seem to establish this past season. That's what you want to see. So there you go. 12-4 is what I have them at. Excuse me. Eagle fans out there, if you ran down the schedule, as did I, and what did you come up with? Did you come up with the same, right? You come up with 12-4? Did you come up with more wins? Or did you come up with less, maybe? I don't know. Share your thoughts. Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Love to hear your thoughts. Of course, as long as you're not a hater and you're not going to come at me with not no substance or whatever. Bring some substance to the table, because some people they just want to hate and and just say stupid things. But that happens. It's podcasts sometimes on YouTube.
Go ahead, hater.
And again, with the Sixers, how far can they go? Are they NBA Finals bound? I mean, I know. Let's get through the second round first. I know the temptation, of course, is something like that, and maybe evaluate how the other teams do in their second round series, how they finish out their first round series, for that matter, as the Sixers await their official second round opponent, although most likely it's going to be the Celtics. How far can they? Are we going to see the Sixers in the NBA Finals? I mean, it's exciting. It's an exciting time here.
Oh man!
And the Philadelphia Flyers, if you have any venting to do with that, like come on, throwing the beer cans is just out of line. But frustrations, I know a common one is Dave Haxtell. He's not emotional. He's not enough of an emotional. He shows no emotion. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, that doesn't amount to a hill of beans right now. When your goaltending situation is what it is. And when, other than that, you're just, you're a fairly young team with some young players, and just ultimately you didn't have enough. You didn't have enough to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, to beat the best player in the game, Sidney Crosby, and along with some other, they didn't even have Malkin out there last couple of games. But you saw, again, it shouldn't have come as any surprise that the Pittsburgh Penguins won this series in 6 games. It doesn't really surprise me at all. And so if you're going to throw beer, drunk or sober, whatever, you can't be throwing beer cans. It's things like that make us look bad. You can't be doing that.
You're a disgrace to this sport.
Yeah, that's right. If you threw a beer, like, come on. My God, I mean, it's plop a kid in the head or something. Or plop somebody else in the head. Especially if the can's full. I don't know. That's just me. But I know there might be some Flyer fans. Oh, come on, But I don't know. Just a little bit of just not to overdo it. All right. Yeah, it's a disappointing shame. I got it. Flyers once again, they struggle against the Penguins. It's not like past years where maybe the Flyers had the Penguins number a little more so, and I know the hate that a lot of Flyer fans give Sidney Crosby, but at the end of the day, he's just the best player in the game. And if he played for your team, oh my. It's like the same thing with LeBron James. People want to hate on him. But if he played on your team, oh man. If LeBron James plays in this team next year, this Sixers team, and they're automatic favorites to win it all, and you got him on the floor with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, Markelle Fultz, and whoever else you want to name. I mean, you're not going to be hating him then. All right, that's going to wrap things up on this jam-packed edition of the Tyler Werner Show, I guess you could call it. Again, the process rolls on, whether or not Stephen A. Smith likes it or wants to admit it. And the Sixers, again, they await their next opponent. This time next week, it might be about that time where they kick off the series with their second round opponent. So we'll get there when we get there. We'll break down, I guess, whatever picks the Eagles do make in their draft. I don't know. Maybe they make an interesting move and they try to get a second round or third round pick in their arsenal. But we'll see what happens, and what the Eagles get, we'll try to evaluate here on the Tyler Werner Show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you following the conclusion of April, beginning of May next week, right here on the Tyler Werner Show. Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. And you can always like and comment on the YouTube channel. Thanks for your time and for your attention.